of lessons learned. Hers was a voice that said, I've been around the block, not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but I've been around the block and inside a few rooms and up a few stairways and down into a few basements, and I know some things. Yes, I know a few things up in here. Maya Angelou's voice, with that clarity of cadence and purpose, her actual voice and her literary voice, was certainly a voice to be reckoned with, and I think a voice for the ages. Today, in tribute, I will share her poetry and prose. Some of what I will share will be familiar to you, perhaps, and some of it may be totally new to you, as it was to me, as I was doing the research for this show. So, I invite you to kick up your heels, grab a cup of tea or coffee, or a cool glass of water or lemonade, or put on your walking shoes, lace them up, and grab your earbuds. We're going to have a good time today. Here is one of Miss Maya's poems. It's one of my favorites. This poem is called Still I Rise. Still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Do you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise. I rise. I rise. There are so many reasons. So many reasons. I just love that poem. I think the most significant reason is because it is a story in the voice of a woman who will not be moved. And two, it tells a story in a voice of a people that will not be moved. A story of a people who will not give in. A story about a people who will not give up, who will not be defined by somebody else's definition of who they ought to be. In her foreword to Brian Lanker's beautiful book called I Dream a World, Maya writes sublimely about black women, which is the singular focus of this amazing book. Black women who will not be moved. Paradoxically, in their determination, in their steadfastness, in their abiding stance of not being moved, these black women became movers in their own right. In fact, the subtitle to I Dream a World is Portraits of Black Women Who Changed America. Portraits of Black Women Who Changed America. Now, I want you to imagine, if you will, an oversized book, a book that is almost square. And when you open its pages, you'll see absolutely exquisite photos, all of them shot and rendered in black and white. Photos of black women who changed the world of their personal village, the communities in which they were born, raised, and came of age. Black women who also changed the larger world into which they were thrust, or the larger world they chose on their own terms. These photo portraits are full page. And on the opposite page of the book, the facing page, is a narrative, words from each woman's own mouth that paint a picture of her life. Words that paint a picture of her work, her family, her struggles, her loves, her hopes, her dreams, her joys, her dealing with barriers and obstacles, and ultimately words that paint a vivid picture of her victories and triumphs. Now, this book was published in 1989. When I bought it, I looked through the names, and I recognized many of them. Some I became familiar with only after reading the narratives and looking into the eyes, into the life, into the eyes of the woman who looked back at me from those pages. Even now, I continue to be inspired by the amazing women in this book and their lives. You will surely recognize some of the names of the women in this book. Names of actors and athletes, names of singers and civil rights leaders, names of politicians and political activists, names that have become part of the larger history of America. Rosa Parks, Coretta Scott King, Lena Horne, Shirley Chisholm, Fannie Lou Hamer, Alice Walker, Angela Davis, Toni Morrison, Leontine Price, Marian Anderson, Myrlie Evers, Barbara Jordan, Odetta, Ruby Dee, Gwendolyn Brooks. Now, some names you may not recognize, and yet these women changed the game. They changed the game within their spheres of influence, and sometimes far beyond. Sonia Sanchez, Catherine Dunham, Eva Jesse, Jonetta Cole, B. Richards, Ernestine Anderson, Willie Mae Ford Smith, Betty Shabazz, Wilma Rudolph, Alexa Kennedy, Oprah Winfrey, Septima P. Clark. Just to call their names, is a blessing. To sing the sweet music of their names is litany, a fragrant prayer that carries the luscious scent of honeysuckle, magnolia, night-blooming jasmine, and tuberose. It is a prayer carried aloft, a prayer lifted up to the heaven, carried on the wings of raven, eagle, and dove. It is a holiness lifted up in rooms filled with the sweet remembrance of breaking bread together, shouting, wailing, calling on the name of Jesus, and falling down on our knees. It is the pipe drift of cherry tobacco lifted onto the breezes of dusk. It is a prayer lifted up to honor the red clay roads we have trod to arrive here in the present. A prayer lifted up to bless the road ahead as we look into the heavens and behold the bright, shining, guiding star that lights the way to our future. Oh, oh, what a blessing to call the names of the women who built roads and bridges, who have cleared paths and broken new ground for me, for us, for all of us, and for our children. Dr. Maya Angelou is one of those names. She is one of the women featured in I Dream a World. Her powerful prose is also featured in the foreword. In her own words, this truth teller says, Black women whose ancestors were brought to the United States beginning in 1619 have lived through conditions of cruelties so horrible, so bizarre, the women have had to reinvent themselves. They have had to find safety and sanctity inside themselves, or they would not have been able to tolerate their torturous lives. They had to learn to be self-forgiving quickly, for often their exterior exploits were at odds with their interior beliefs. Still, they had to survive as wholly and as healthily as possible in an infectious and sick climate. Angelou goes on to say, lives lived in such cauldrons are either obliterated or forged into impenetrable alloys. Thus, early on and consciously, Black women as reality became possibilities only to themselves. To others, they were mostly seen and described in the abstract, concrete in their labor, but surreal in their humanness. Can I just tell you something? What Maya is saying here continues even today. Sad but true, isn't it? I can certainly